All right, are you ready to dive in? Today, we're tackling the often wild world of timeshare scams. We've got all your research right here, and I gotta say, some of these tactics are seriously sneaky.
Yeah, timeshares are complicated, which makes them a prime target for all kinds of fraud.
Right. So let's get into it. I mean, before we even get to the scams themselves, maybe we should start with, like, the basics.
Okay, sure.
So, what exactly is a timeshare?
Well, at its core, it's a way for a bunch of people to share ownership of a vacation property.
So you're basically buying the right to use a specific unit for a certain time each year.
Exactly. Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
But the contracts can get, well, really complicated. And the sales tactics, let's just say they have a bit of a reputation for being high pressure.
Yeah, I've heard stories. So it's not just the idea itself, but the whole structure and how they're sold that makes them so vulnerable to these scams.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk scams. What are some of the most common tactics we should be watching out for?
Well, one that often preys on people who are like desperate to get out of their timeshare is the resale scam.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine you're trying to sell, and this so-called resale company appears, promising you a quick sale for a great price.
Okay, I'm listening.
They say they already have a buyer all lined up, but you need to pay some upfront fees to cover things like closing costs and transfer fees.
Upfront fees. That sounds a little fishy already.
Yeah, and those fees can add up to thousands of dollars. But here's the thing, there is no buyer.
Seriously. So they just take the money and run.
Pretty much. You're left with an empty wallet, and you're still stuck with the timeshare.
Ouch. Okay, so what can people do to avoid falling for this? Like, what are the warning signs?
Well, the biggest red flag with most timeshare scams is any request for payment up front before they do anything. Legitimate businesses just don't operate that way.
Right. It's like paying for a service you haven't received yet.
Exactly. Another red flag is if it sounds too good to be true, a guaranteed quick sale at an inflated price, that kind of thing.
Okay, so basically, if it sounds too easy, it probably is.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so a healthy dose of skepticism is key. Don't just take their word for it, do your research.
Exactly. Speaking of things that sound too good to be true, let's talk about rental scams.
Oh, yeah, those are bad. So this is where scammers are targeting people looking for a cheap vacation.
Right. They create fake listings using stolen photos and stuff, offering rentals at super low prices. They try to lure you in with the promise of a luxury getaway for a bargain.
It's like the vacation version of catfishing. You think you're getting this amazing deal, and
And
then...
then you arrive at the resort and, surprise, the reservation doesn't exist.
Oh, no! So they've taken the money and vanished, leaving the vacationers stranded.
Right.
Wow, that's awful. So how can people avoid these rental scams?
It's all about research. Stick to reputable rental platforms and websites, and be super careful about dealing with individuals or companies you haven't thoroughly checked out. If a deal seems way too good to be true, it probably is.
So far, we've talked about scams targeting people trying to sell or rent. But what about folks who just want to get rid of their timeshare altogether? Are there scams aimed at them too?
Oh, absolutely. Timeshare transfer scams are a big one. They prey on people who are, frustrated and looking for a way out of their contracts.
Okay, so the scammer swoops in, claims to have some special connection or insider knowledge.
Right. They promise a smooth transfer of ownership, maybe to another buyer, or even back to the resort itself.
It sounds so simple, but I bet there's a catch.
There always is. The catch is upfront fees, supposedly for legal costs, processing fees, or some other official-sounding expense. Of course, once they have your money, they disappear, and the transfer never happens.
Wow, they really know how to use legal jargon to make it sound legitimate.
Oh, they're masters of deception. That's why it's so important to be aware of their tricks. Legitimate transfers usually involve a much more complex process with documentation and everything.
So if you're trying to get out of your timeshare, don't fall for these quick fixes. Do your research, talk to professionals, and be cautious of anyone promising an effortless exit for a fee.
Exactly. Rushing into a decision, especially when you're feeling desperate, is never a good idea.
I think I'm sensing a theme here. Desperation and the desire for a quick fix seem to be common threads in a lot of these scams.
Yeah, definitely.
So what other types of scams should people be on the lookout for? I mean, we've covered a few, but I'm sure there are more.
Oh, there are plenty more. And they get pretty creative. So sometimes instead of promising you something good, they try to use scare tactics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's where cancellation scams come in.
Okay, cancellation scams.
These target folks who are already feeling trapped by their timeshare and, are actively looking for a way out.
So they're preying on that feeling of being stuck.
Exactly. The scammer pretends to be like a savior, claiming they know all these loopholes in contracts or have special connections. They make it sound like they can guarantee a cancellation.
Oh, wow. And I bet they also make it sound urgent, right? Like you have to act now or you'll miss out.
All the time. And of course, there's a big fee for this cancellation service.
But then, surprise, the scammer disappears and the timeshare owner is still stuck.
Sadly, that's how it usually goes.
So the lesson here is, if it sounds too good to be true, especially when it comes to timeshare cancellations, it probably is.
Absolutely. Legitimate exits are rarely quick or easy.
If someone really wants to get out of their timeshare, what's the best way to do it?
Talk to a lawyer who specializes in timeshare law. They'll know the right way to go about it.
All right, so far we've covered resale, rental, transfer, and cancellation scams. It feels like we're really getting a good overview of all the ways people can get tricked.
We're getting there. Let's talk about phantom sales next.
Phantom sales! Okay, I'm intrigued. What's that all about?
Imagine this. You get a call out of the blue from someone claiming to be with a timeshare resale company.
Okay, I've gotten those calls before.
They tell you they've sold your timeshare for a fantastic price.
Wow, that would be amazing.
But there's a catch. They say you need to pay some unexpected fees or taxes before the sale can be finalized.
Uh-oh, I'm sensing a scam here. So they dangle this great sale in front of you and then hit you with a surprise bill.
Yep, they might say their closing costs or transfer fees or even back taxes. They pressure you to pay up quickly so you don't lose the sale.
But there is no sale, right? It's all made up.
Exactly. It's just a way to trick people into sending them money.
Man, these scammers are good. They really know how to play on people's emotions.
They do. That's why it's so important to be skeptical and check things out yourself. If someone says they've sold your timeshare, call the resort directly and ask.
Don't just take their word for it. Good advice. Okay, what's the last scam on our list?
Last but not least, we have timeshare investment scams. These target folks who are looking to grow their money.
So they're appealing to people's desire for financial security or maybe a quick profit.
Right. The scammers will pitch timeshares as these fantastic investments with guaranteed returns and high rental income. They make it sound like you'll be rolling in dough.
But are timeshares ever actually good investments?
Not really. They're more vacation properties than anything else. While some people might be able to rent theirs out or sell for a profit, it's not a sure thing at all.
Okay, so if someone's pushing a timeshare as a guaranteed way to make money, that's a huge red flag.
Absolutely. Real investments always come with some risk. If someone's telling you otherwise, they're probably trying to scam you.
So let's recap. We've talked about resale scams, rental scams, transfer scams, cancellation scams, phantom sales, and now investment scams. Wow, that's a lot to keep track of.
I know it can seem overwhelming, but honestly, just being aware of these tactics is a huge step in the right direction.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Exactly. And we're not done yet. We still need to give our listeners some practical tips on how to protect themselves.
Yes. In the last part of our deep dive, we'll cover what you can do to avoid becoming a victim. Welcome back, everyone. So we've exposed all these shady timeshare scams, but now let's talk about how you can actually protect yourself.
Because knowledge is power, right?
Exactly. So what's the most important thing for people to remember?
Honestly, just be skeptical. Don't believe everything you hear, especially those offers that sound way too good to be true.
So trust your gut.
Yeah. If something feels off, it probably is.
Okay, makes sense. But skepticism alone isn't enough.
No, you need to back it up with some solid research. Don't rush into anything, especially if it involves a lot of money. Take your time, get information from reliable sources.
So where should people go for reliable info? Like, what are some good resources?
Well, the Better Business Bureau website is always a good place to start. You can look up a specific company or resort and see if there are any complaints.
Oh, yeah, the BBB. I use them for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they're great. And another thing you can do is search online for reviews. See what other people are saying about their experiences.
Those first-hand accounts can be so helpful.
Totally. They can really give you a good idea of what to expect and what to watch out for.
Okay, so skepticism and research are key. What else?
This is a big one. Avoid upfront fees.
Yeah, we talked about that before. Those are definitely a red flag.
Huge red flag. Legitimate businesses don't ask for money before they provide a service. So if a company wants payment upfront, walk away.
Okay, no upfront fees. Got it. What about contracts?
Yes. Always, always get everything in writing. Every single detail.
Don't rely on just a handshake or a verbal agreement.
Nope. Get it all in that contract. And make sure you actually understand what you're signing. If something's not clear, ask questions. or walk away if you're not comfortable.
Don't be afraid to walk away. Good advice.
And if you're really feeling overwhelmed, talk to a professional. A real estate agent or a lawyer who specializes in timeshares can help.
Okay, so we've talked about being skeptical, doing research, avoiding upfront fees, and getting everything in writing. That's a lot of great advice. But what if, even after doing all that, someone still gets scammed? What should they do?
Well, first of all, don't panic. It happens.
Yeah.
The important thing is to act fast. Start by gathering any evidence you have.
So like contracts, emails, receipts, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Build your case file
Mm.
and then report the scam to the authorities.
Who should they contact?
You can start with your local consumer protection agency, the FTC, or the Better Business Bureau, and definitely notify your state's attorney general.
So spread the word and file those reports.
Yep. The more reports they get, the better chance they have of stopping these scammers. And of course, call your bank or credit card company too. Report those fraudulent charges.
Try to get your money back. So take action, report the scam, try to recover any losses, anything else.
It's a good idea to change any passwords or PINs that might have been compromised, and you might want to put a fraud alert on your credit report, just in case.
Protect yourself from any further damage.
Right.
You know, it's really comforting to know that there are resources out there for people who've been scammed. It's important to remember you're not alone in this.
Exactly. Don't blame yourself. These scammers are pros, and anyone can fall victim.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the bad stuff, but what about the future? Is there any hope for a more ethical, transparent timeshare industry?
I think the industry is kind of a turning point. There's a lot of pressure for change to move away from those pushy sales tactics and complicated contracts.
So there's a push for a more consumer-friendly approach.
Yeah. Consumer groups are speaking out, and even lawmakers are starting to pay attention. And honestly, the industry itself is realizing they need to adapt if they want to survive.
Interesting. So what kind of changes are we seeing?
Well, for one, there's a move towards points-based systems. They give owners more flexibility with travel dates and destinations.
That's definitely an improvement over those fixed-week timeshares. Makes a lot more sense for how people travel these days.
Right. And some companies are even partnering with big travel brands and loyalty programs, trying to make the whole timeshare experience more appealing.
So more options, more value. It sounds like they're trying to attract a new generation of travelers.
Exactly. But even with these positive changes, we still need to be careful. Those scams are probably going to evolve right along with the industry.
So staying informed is more important than ever.
Absolutely. As timeshares move more online, we'll probably see more online scams, social media schemes, things like that.
It's like a never-ending battle.
Kind of. But knowledge is our weapon. If we stay informed and follow those tips we talked about, we can definitely reduce our risk.
So even though the industry's changing, those basic principles still apply. Be skeptical, do your research, avoid upfront fees, get everything in writing, and watch out for those deals that seem too good to be true.
Yep, that about sums it up. And remember, if you have any doubts, just walk away. There are plenty of other ways to have an amazing vacation.
Well said. We've really covered a lot today. The good, the bad, and the future of timeshares. Any final thoughts?
The timeshare industry can be tricky, but it doesn't have to be a disaster. If you do your research and stay vigilant, you can absolutely make informed decisions that work for you. And remember, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are experts out there who can guide you.
Excellent advice. All right, everyone, we've armed you with the knowledge and the tools to combat those timeshare scams. Stay safe and happy travels.
Enjoy your vacations.
And that concludes our deep dive into the wild world of timeshare scams. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Remember, knowledge is power, and together we can outsmart those scammers. Stay informed, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.